You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome in a legendary first chair litigator, John B. Quinn, founder of Quinn Emanuel Urquhart and Sullivan, LLP, the largest law firm in the world devoted solely to business litigation and arbitration. Chambers and Partners reviewed Mr. Quinn as a heavyweight litigator with decades of experience trying high-stake cases and one of California's leading litigators. The National Law Journal named Mr. Quinn among its litigation trailblazers and pioneers. Quinn Emanuel is known as the most feared law firm globally. Mr. Quinn is a graduate cum laude of Harvard Law School. How are you doing today? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Benny, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate it. So I have to ask you this question before we get going. I think you were at Harvard from like 73 to 76 when you were in law school. And like one of my favorite legal movies, The Paper Chase, took place in like 1973. I don't know if that was like recorded before you or if you know anything about that film, if you were there when it took place.
Sure. I saw it, and there was a book.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw the movie. And it's actually, there was the professor in that book was Professor Kingfield.
Yeah, Professor Kingfield, yeah.
And he was actually based on a contracts law professor whose name was Dawson, Jack Dawson.
Okay.
They called him Black Jack Dawson. And he but when the time I was at Harvard, he had retired and he was teaching, I think, at BU Law School. But everybody knew that Kingfield was Dawson.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. So they all just knew like probably the Socratic method and all that sort of thing. You probably had to deal with all that. So super interesting stuff to me. But so here at Lawyer Stories, we like to talk about like why the attorney went to law school amongst like other career details. So like let's start with your early history. You were born in Virginia and then moved to Connecticut pretty young, and then you had another move at like 12 years old.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't remember Virginia.
Yeah, well,
I was born there and I lived there a couple of years. Then my family moved to Greenwich, Connecticut, and that was before Greenwich was the hedge fund capital of the world. I went to elementary school there with kids whose Italian was spoken in the home.
Wow.
Actually, so it was kind of a blue collar. The parts of Greenwich, Coscob, which I lived in, was kind of blue collar.
Yep.
And then in 7th grade, my family moved to Bountiful, Utah, which was like a mind-boggling sea change for me.
Right. Yeah, so that had to be like totally different. Even though Greenwich back then wasn't what it is now. I mean, I lived in Connecticut for a little while. I used to go down to Stamford, Greenwich area, so I kind of get what you're saying there. I was in New Haven, but so you had some lawyers in your family, is that correct?
We did. Yep.
Okay,
lawyers.
so what area did they practice, and like were any of them mentors to you?
Weren't mentors.
Okay.
I had an older brother who was a lawyer. He was a litigator, business litigator, which is what I ended up being. I had a sister who was a litigator, but I mean, I can't say they were actually mentors. They were considerably older than I am. And then I had several uncles who were successful lawyers, but again, I didn't know them that well. They weren't really inspiration. I had a grandfather who was kind of a semi-famous lawyer in Salt Lake City, actually, had his own firm. So I grew up knowing that, law was one option, that it was something that people did in my family. Some people grow up in families where they're doctors, so they know about that from an early age. I didn't have that. There were no doctors, but there was some lawyers. So I knew that was
Gotcha.
I knew being a lawyer was a thing. I guess I always thought in the back of my mind that might be one possibility for me.
Right. So it was just on the table, like you knew of the
Yeah.
profession. So there was like no magic moment where you were like, I'm gonna go to law school. Like this changed my life, this situation sort of thing.
Nah, nah.
Okay. So
I toyed with the idea of doing some other things, but there was like maybe a magnet you can think of pulling me in that direction.
and you had tons of jobs too when you were younger. I read like you were doing like all sorts of
Oh,
stuff.
I did, Benny. I made donuts. I
Yeah.
got up in the morning, and made donuts. I worked in a steel fab facility. I made guardrail. I made culvert plate. I made PG&E power arms that went on poles.
It's
I
amazing.
hung guardrail on the highway. I was a night watchman. I washed dishes at a Kentucky Fried Chicken place in Salt Lake City where they had dishes. It was a sit-down
Wow.
diner. I did all kinds of things.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So how did you like decide? Obviously, Harvard was like, probably the cream of the crop back there.
Like I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing there? I don't belong in this
Really?
place.
Why?
I mean, I was this kid from Utah, and these
Okay.
kids, a lot of them went to, private schools in high school, or they came from, their family came over on the Mayflower, or the family had a lot of, I mean, this is all in my head, right?
Sure.
Because actually the law school is a very diverse place, but so what I'm saying reflects more on me than anything else. I just had
Right.
these feelings maybe of, I don't know, insecurity, whatever you want
Yeah.
to call it.
Well, that's got to be tough. I mean, going from Utah to like the epicenter of, where the law school is, and that's, I mean, just known so well, but also, that's pretty amazing. So what advice would you have for a young lawyer?
Well, I mean, practicing law is extremely labor-intensive exercise. It's mostly hard work. In my experience, it's mostly hard work and preparation. More, as Edison said, more perspiration than inspiration. So, I mean, you have to be prepared to work super hard.
Yeah, for sure. Just work super hard. And I probably should have asked this question first before that, but I think I read somewhere that you kind of got sucked into a Wall Street firm as your first job at a law school. So, like, what was that experience like? And then, do you think it helped shape the way that you built Quinn Emanuel?
I wouldn't say I got sucked in.
Okay,
I went there. It was the Cravath, Swaine and Moore. I
right.
interviewed at the firm. It was a totally different experience for me. Like, this
Yeah,
is one of the most prestigious firms in the world, then down on Wall Street. And I did end up working there for a couple of years, and I have to say I actually enjoyed the firm. It was a totally different environment than anything. It was like join Cravath and see the world. It was
wow.
great. The one thing I did sort of get sucked into is doing corporate work, transactional
Okay,
work,
maybe that's what it was.
rather than
Okay.
litigation. Because when I went there, they were in need of associates for the corporate transactional department, and I kind of got a nudge to try that, and I did. Of course, I wanted to please people, so sure,
Gotcha.
I'll try that. Even though in the back of my head, I thought my calling really was to be a litigator, but I did do that for a couple of years there.
Okay, so how long were you there? A couple
I was
years?
there about 2.5 years.
Okay, so what was that moment, or like how did you know it was time to launch your own firm?
Well, I had kind of I went through some detours, it wasn't a straight path. I wanted to, I'd gone to college in LA. I liked LA. I'm from the West, from Utah.
Okay.
And as much as I actually did enjoy the Cravath firm. And in a way, I like New York, still like New York, like going back there. But I didn't see living in New York all the time and raising a family in New York. That's one thing that didn't compute for me. I like
Right.
the outdoor.
Gotcha.
I like the outdoors and exercise in the outdoors and everything. So I ended up going out to LA, and I bounced around a little bit, honestly. Back at that, times have changed so much. Back then, firms like the big firms, then there was Latham, O'Melveny, and Gibson Dunn. They had one office downtown LA, if you can imagine that.
Crazy.
And those firms, they didn't hire associates laterally from other firms. Can you
Right.
imagine? That's the way it used to be.
And you
And
started a program, right? Like you were laddering over like third years associates or something like that at your firm. I thought I saw that somewhere. Maybe maybe I'm
I'm not
wrong.
sure what you're referring to, but
All right.
I mean, when I moved to LA,
Yeah.
I ended up kind of bouncing around a little bit. I mean,
Okay.
the obvious thing for me to do, having been at a big law firm in New York, is go to a big law firm in LA, but that didn't work out. So I bounced around a little bit and ended up starting my own firm.
Right. So like how did you scale it? Like what was your plan? I mean, and I know obviously that's a whole other book,
The
but
plan was to not starve and keep the wolf from the door and keep people busy.
okay.
The plan was to find work however we could find it, by hook or by crook. That was it. It was up to us,
Gotcha.
myself and 3 other lawyers. We started this law firm, and we were young people. We didn't have clients really. We had some contacts, but it was all up to us.
Yeah. That's incredible. So were you taking different kind of cases or were you at that point just doing litigation?
No, we only did litigation work. We've always only done
That's
litigation work.
what you've always done, right?
But we took all types of business cases. Now, we never took personal. We don't know about personal injury, tort work, criminal work. We didn't do criminal work, matrimonial work, divorce, family law. We didn't do that. So we did business litigation, but pretty much every type of business litigation, whatever we could get.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it just over time, you just kept making more contacts and more contacts, and then it.
Look, our attitude was, the big challenge was to get somebody to hire us, because we believe if client would hire us once, we'd do such a great job. We would so impress them. The cost would be reasonable. The work would be great. The result would be great, that they would come back and hire us again and again and again. So
Right. And
that was the business plan.
And you weren't representing any of the big banks, right? Like you wouldn't. Is that something you would do?
Back then we didn't have an opportunity to represent big. The time came when we were doing work for banks, and the time came, I know where you're going. Ultimately, we're kind of well known for this. We've made a conscious decision. We won't represent the big money center banks, so we won't have conflicts and we can be adverse to them. But that's well in the future.
Gotcha. That's well in the future. Okay. So sort of like bringing us more to the future, to the present day, like why did your firm decide to do only litigation work?
I can't say there was, I don't know there was ever a point where we made that conscious decision. The fact is, when we started the firm, there were 4 of us, and we were all litigators. And I told you our strategy, do whatever it takes to get hired, impress the client, get hired again, do whatever it took to get work. And it was successful. So we started to grow, and we were known as litigators, and other clients came, and there just came a point where we realized this was a very powerful business model. We're not trying to be all things to all people, like we're super in tax, we're super in M&A, capital markets, and all these different areas. It was just a very simple message to the business and legal community. We do one thing, we do disputes work, and we're really good at that.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. So, and recently you had a really big win, securing like a $325 million settlement, and 3 years of peace from litigation. I was just hoping you can.
That wasn't a settlement. That was a jury verdict.
Oh, okay. It came to me. Okay, then I got
No. We represented a Chinese company.
Yeah. All right.
Against the market-leading American gene sequencing company. It's a company called Illumina. And guess what? The American system worked. Truth and justice prevailed. The Chinese company prevailed.
Wow. That's amazing. So I'm sure client was pretty pleased.
They were happy.
they were happy. Yeah.
They were happy.
Pretty basic. Okay. So you do some interesting things at your office, like some progressive things at the law firm, like with COVID. Like, tell us a little bit how it affected The Office. Like, it's my understanding that you were one of the first big law firms to let attorneys work from home, and you might continue that.
Yeah, I mean, we have it is our stated announced policy that, people can work from anywhere. That's for the indefinite future. We're not asking people to come back. People want to come back, can come back. We're taking steps to try to make that in-office work environment attractive for people who want to be in the office. But frankly, we've told all our lawyers, you can work from anywhere you want.
That's awesome. Okay. So how's that been working out so far for the firm?
Seemingly fine. Seemingly fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you think you have like such a long, like a amazing career, long history, like with a lot of accomplishments, just like too many to really list. But how has the profession changed, do you think, since when you first started?
I think it's more transparent. It's more businesslike. The competition is better in the sense that law firms aren't hiding behind just histories and some hocus pocus or mystery. Lawyers have to be able to attract engagements based on their experience and their results. There's more of that than there used to be.
Right. Okay.
I remember attending an event, I'm going to say back in the early 1980s in Los Angeles, a bar association event in downtown LA, where there was a senior partner at a major law firm in Los Angeles it was about, I can't remember what the subject of the event was, but it was some type of, there's people eating dinner at tables and there's a stage and there's distinguished lawyers up there.
Sure.
And this senior partner launched into this screed. The punchline was something about lawyers willing to prostitute themselves to advertise and promote their personal capabilities. Like he was holding his nose as he said this, that I can't imagine. Well, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
That was what it was like then. Now, it's not a question of prostituting yourself. It's providing information and giving clients the information they need to make intelligent decisions about professional relationships and engagements. But that just kind of gives you an idea how much it's changed.
Right. And you've had clients for like 30 years, right? Like what do you think the secret is to keeping your clients for so long?
Well, look, clients are personal relationships.
Yeah.
So you can have a great relationship with a client. Our clients are typically in-house lawyers. They might be a general counsel. They might be an in-house lawyer who has responsibility for managing litigation.
Okay.
It's that relationship that's, is the relationship between our firm and the client. And, those relationships can change, even though you've done fabulous work. There's a change in personnel, new lawyer comes in, they have their own historic relationships with other lawyers who they've worked with in the past. And so sometimes, despite your own best efforts and a great record, you end up finding the relationship becomes more and more attenuated, and eventually sometimes you're not representing that client anymore, but just because of a change in personnel.
Gotcha.
If you're going to keep a client for a long time, you said decades, you're going to have to be forming those personal relationships with different people,
Okay. Yeah.
because people move and they change, and you're gonna have to win and reinforce that relationship all the time.
Okay. So is there anything over the course of your career that, like, a couple highlights that you really take pride in, or that you have flashbacks to, like, of a big court victory or something that you'd like to share?
I don't know.
There's been a lot. I get it.
I remember my first jury trial down in San Diego,
Okay.
where we were on the defense side of a race discrimination case in employment,
Okay.
discrimination case. And the plaintiffs were two senior African Americans who had been replaced by a single young Caucasian guy. And there was a lot of, there was evidence that really supported the plaintiff's side in this case. And we were up against a plaintiff's lawyer who had gotten some very big verdicts in plaintiff's cases.
Okay.
And we tried the case, and then somehow we got a defense verdict. And
wow. Okay.
And I think a lot had to do with the jury. I mean, that's often the case, especially back then, for race-related issues. It's the jurors are in the jury box. Some people may listen to this and say, how can you be proud of that? Because reading between the lines, Quinn, what I'm hearing is there was some evidence that supported, the plaintiff.
Right. Sure.
And you got a defense verdict. You walked.
Right.
But that was a big moment for us. It was my first jury trial. When I was up selecting the jury, my partner, I'm up there talking to the jurors involved in jury selection. My partner told me, "You were shaking like a leaf."
Yeah, I mean, hey,
I was terrified.
Yeah, and now what's it like?
I'm not terrified.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
I hope I'm not. I hope I'm not shaking.
So I hope everybody takes that as that's good advice. I mean, hey, you get over that, right? As you do more and more.
You can get over it, but as I look back on it, from the standpoint of my opposing counsel and the jury, to see a young person up there shaking and nervous.
Yeah.
That's not a bad message in a way.
Maybe
some jurors are going to be pulling for you. And that's afterwards, true. Afterwards we talked to some of the jurors. Trial ended up being, believe it or not, like 3 months.
Wow.
Afterwards, I talked to some of the jurors. One of the jurors told me, "You came a long way in that trial. You
really?
You personally.
Wow.
You came a long. You personally developed. They saw me develop.
That's amazing.
It is. It was.
That's really amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think that.
So now you think about, I'm in trial, so I'm a guy with, I'm a gray hair. I'm obviously not 26 years old anymore. If I'm in trial, and if I imagine my opponent on the other side is a young woman who's clearly nervous, it's a jury trial, and they're up against me.
Yep.
I think I'm at a disadvantage.
Oh, okay, because they think they're kind of pulling.
Well, what do you think?
I'm
this white guy, old white guy who's obviously been around the block, and here's this young woman first trying to make it.
Yeah.
Who are you going to pick? If you're on that jury, who are you going to pull for?
Well, I mean, don't you have to listen to the facts? I mean, we hope.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I guess that would be my answer. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I've heard that, a lot of attorneys can tell if maybe a case is going to be decided just by the jury selection. Such a big deal with some of these cases. There's some stuff that I've heard.
Depends on the issue.
Okay.
Who gets seated.
I think that's a good story. So you did a cool program too over COVID. You had a couple offices in your firm. You had like 250 applications to be artists in residence, and you down and you picked like two. So we had like 5 floors of empty space. Nobody was coming in, and I like art. I like contemporary art. Yeah.
I just had this idea. Suppose we invited some artists to come in, have studios. They need, I thought, I had no idea the dimensions of the problem.
Right.
And so we said, we're going to make the space available. We'll give you a small stipend. Over 250 people sent in portfolios.
Of course.
It turns out, well, you say, of course, but it turns out there are all these people out there who have a need to make art. It's important for them.
Right.
And they don't have the wherewithal, the space for a studio or the ability to do this thing that they need to fulfill themselves. So we did do that. We've done a couple of rounds of that. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, it made me think of my sister Liz, who's an artist too. She does a lot of abstract things, and I have a couple of her nice paintings here in my little studio. So I thought that was a very cool program and outreach that you did. So you're doing some cool stuff over there. So is it true that your firm volunteered to represent pro bono in Ukraine on human rights issues against Russia? Is that something that I read correctly? Okay.
And we're very proud of the fact that
Good.
we represent Ukraine in a case against Russia, which is filed in the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg.
Okay.
And we have a history with Ukraine. We've represented them in commercial matters for many years. And this is a pro bono engagement. It's being run out of our London office.
Okay.
And we're very proud of it.
That's awesome. Congratulations on doing good work.
Thank you. Thanks.
So John, tell us how you like being the host of Law Interrupted and being,
How
do you like being a podcast host?
How do you like it?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I have a podcast. It's called Law Disrupted. And
Law Disrupted. Okay.
Law Disrupted.
Got it.
And you can sign up for it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or the usual places. And we explore legal subjects. We like to think of them as kind of cutting edge, horizon, what's next kind of subjects, interesting issues and interesting people. And I enjoy doing that very much. And I enjoy it just because I like talking about the law, and I like talking to interesting people who are involved in important developments in the law.
Yeah, it looks like you've got some interesting episodes up there. I'd encourage everybody to go check out Law Disrupted with John Quinn. Super cool, doing awesome stuff. I mean, you're really moving along with everything that's sort of, I think, in our times, with working from home. I think that I saw that your dress code is a little different maybe at the office. Just, don't wear a bathing suit or something. I read that somewhere.
You have to wear something on your feet.
You have to wear something on your feet. Just stash a suit in your closet. That's what I do, right? In case you got to get called down to court. That's awesome that you're doing all those things. Tell me something that's not on your resume, your accolades that you'd want people to know about you. I know you have a lot of hobbies. Maybe share some of those.
My hobbies are, I like to ride my bike. I like to run. I like to lift weights, those kinds of things. I like to climb mountains. I like the outdoors. I have this belief that people are divided into mountain people and beach people. And I'm definitely a mountain person and not a beach person.
Yeah, got it.
I have 5 daughters and 11 grandchildren who,
amazing,
really fun. I enjoy them a ton.
That's great.
And I guess I'm a big reader. Although most of my reading is audiobooks. So while I'm riding or running, I'm listening to a book. I probably get through a book a week.
That's awesome. I was actually going to ask you. I saw that you have 5 kids, and I'm a new dad myself. I have
congratulations!
Thank you. I have a 3.5. He was born January 1st, New Year's Day baby, and then I have a 9-month-old. She'll be 1 in October. So I wanted to ask you for some advice. Do you have any new dad advice?
From my experience, what the advice I'd give is marry well. You've already made that decision because my wife deserves most of the credit.
Yes. Okay.
Are they boys or girls? Or
I have
one of each.
One of each. The older boy and then a girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know anything about boys. Or what I knew I've forgotten because I have 5 girls. I can tell you on the girl with a fair degree of certainty because I've had this experience myself and I've compared it with other guys.
Okay.
When they become teenagers, they will have conflicts with their mom.
Okay.
And you become the fount of all wisdom.
Nice.
They'll complain about their mom and they'll come to you and say, Dad, can you talk to her?
Right.
And it's a great period in a way. But they come out the other side of that
Yep.
and then they're close to their mom again.
Yeah, yeah. I guess they all do go through. It's hard to imagine, but I guess it's gonna come, right?
Enjoy it while it lasts.
I know. Tell me about it. So what's next for you and Quinn Emanuel?
I think really more of the same.
Yeah.
We just got a TRO against the PGA Tour today on behalf of some professional golfers who want to play in the Saudi tournament, the Saudi-sponsored Live Golf tournament. I really think it's un-American what
Wow. Okay.
the PGA is trying to do.
Yeah.
It's antitrust. If you're a monopolist, you really shouldn't be. Well, I shouldn't get. You have a new entrant to the market, and you're disciplining or blackballing people who want to, go. Also play not just for the PGA Tour, but for the new entrant, the competing tour.
Right.
I mean, that raises some antitrust law issues, don't you think, Ben?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would think so. I mean, hey, I'm gonna have to go. I think read up a little bit more on that. But
Yeah,
I would totally think so.
there was a TRO issued in federal court in
Okay.
San Francisco this
Wow.
morning.
Okay, I didn't see it. I didn't get the alert. I'm gonna go look that up right after we get off the episode here. Thank you for letting me know that. So you did work with like the Academy Awards, is that correct? Like,
Yeah, I was general counsel of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences for something like 31 or 32 years.
so I think like the Oscars is something different. To be honest, I don't really watch many of those things, but what did you think of the whole like Will Smith thing? Can I ask you that? Did you see it? Did you react to it?
I mean, I wasn't in the audience that night. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously it was inexcusable.
Yeah.
He should have been walked out by the police.
Yeah. Likely. Yeah.
And
Okay.
there was a lot of criticism within the academy for the management for not doing something about that. Like, what is it? Because this guy's a star, he's untouchable.
Yeah.
Kind of ridiculous. Let's think about, what did he do? He walked up on live television to the stage and punched somebody.
Right. Right.
If you did that, or I did that,
Oh, forget it. Forget it.
Yeah, exactly.
Still be in jail. Yeah, and then he got an award too, a little after that, so that was kind of weird. But
yeah, he had this lame thing about, he's in this movie King Richard, which he got the award for,
right.
about Venus and Selena, the father, and he made this thing like Richard always protected his family.
Right.
Remember that from his acceptance.
Oh, so okay, that's interesting. So he was back in character, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty lame.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, anything else you'd like to share? Like, do you have any general advice for lawyers out there who are working at a big firm, like maybe like I don't know, looking to distinguish themselves? I know you guys hire some cream of the crop. I mean, you got like professors over there. You have, I mean, I was looking at the whole thing. It's incredible. But I would love some just advice from you if you had anything to share.
I'm not, it'd be presumptuous of me to
Okay.
To do that. I mean,
Yeah.
look, we're all of us lawyers. I think there's a brotherhood and sisterhood of lawyers.
I like it.
We're all, trying to do the right thing by our clients, and our tools are the words we speak and the words we write. We have that in common, and we all face the same challenges. So, I mean, we're all participating in this same challenge, and far be it from me to try to give advice to other people that are facing these same challenges.
All right. Well, just enjoy yourself. That's have fun, do what you love, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there anything else we left out that you'd like to share tonight?
Don't think so, Benny. I think you've asked about everything I could possibly think of.
All right. Well, I do my best. I really appreciate you spending some time with me.
Pleasure.
And
thank you for the opportunity.
Looking forward to it. And it's so great to talk to you. And everybody out there, wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourself.